Next, I'm going to check my mirror brackets. They are securely mounted, not missing parts, not cracked or broke. Next, I'm going to check the glass in my mirrors. They're securely mounted, not missing parts, not cracked or broke. They're clean and reflective. This is my windshield. It's securely mounted, not missing parts, not cracked or broke. It's clean and clear, and there's no illegal stickers. My windshield wiper brackets are securely mounted, not missing parts, not cracked or broke. My windshield wiper rubber blades, they are securely mounted, not missing parts, not ripped or torn, and they have good tension up against the glass. Behind that kick panel of the passenger seat, I have a fuse box. It's securely mounted, not missing parts, not cracked or broke. If I have any missing or blown fuses, there's extras in there. And there's extras right here in this plastic bag. There's also current registration and insurance in this bag. In this red box, I have 3 red triangle reflectors, and they're ready to use. This is my fire extinguisher. It's securely mounted to the floor. It's pinned, charged, and up to date. This is my seat belt. It is securely mounted to the cab of the tractor. It's not missing any parts. It's not ripped or torn, and it securely latches. This is my horn. This is my steering wheel. I cannot have excessive play, which would be more than 10%, which is more than 2 inches on a 20-inch wheel. My floor is clear of debris, so nothing gets behind my pedals. This is my throttle pedal, service brake pedal, and clutch pedal. All of these are securely mounted, not missing parts, not cracked or broke, and none of them are sticky or loose. My seat belt, and mirrors are adjusted to me, and this is a synchronized transmission. I do not have to double clutch. This is my trailer air supply valve. This is my parking brake valve. The first test is my air compressor governor cutout test. The governor must cut out no higher than 140 psi. Right now, just chill and watch your needles. You're looking for them to stop rising. You cannot reference this air dryer release you're going to hear out here. There's going to be a rush of air. Don't point at it, don't talk about it, don't move, be still, be quiet, and watch your needles. You can exaggerate by leaning forward and tapping on the plexiglass, exaggerating that you're paying attention. Watch the needles. They're going to be looking at your eyeballs and that gauge. My air compressor governor just cut out at 127 psi. I know this because the needle stopped rising. That is below 140 psi, making this a good test. These are my headlights. These are my high beams with indicator, full wave flashers with indicators, right turn signal with indicator, and left turn signal with indicator. This is my windshield wipers with washer. This is my oil pressure gauge, has risen to normal range and no warning lights. This is my water temperature gauge, has risen to normal range and no warning lights. My voltmeter reads 13.9 volts. This is within normal range, no warning lights. This is my primary air pressure gauge, has risen to normal range, no warning lights. This is my secondary air pressure gauge, has risen to normal range, no warning lights. My ABS light has come on and off, indicating my system is operational. This is my climate control with mandatory heat and defrost. Both outside knobs clockwise to maximum, center knob to the man in the windshield. Wave your hand by the throttle and say yes, it works. By the dash in the windshield, say yes, it works. Then turn them off. Make sure that fan is off. Then you're going to make sure that your valves are in. Then you're going to make sure that your needles have stopped rising. And then you're going to make sure that your window is down to ear level. And once you have that, then you can shut the engine off and turn the key to the on position. I'm going to shut my headlights off. I don't need them on. Once I've shut the engine off and turned the key to the on position, my brake test is my applied. It's called the applied. I'm going to apply the brake for 60 seconds. I can lose no more than 4 psi in this combination vehicle. Then apply that brake. Give them a starting pressure. My starting pressure is 118 psi. Now I'll start that 1 minute test. And just for the sake of time, TikTok, we're going to pretend. Don't pretend on your test. Hold that brake for a minute. You say, hey, it's been a minute. I've listened. That word is on the test. Or you can substitute it with, I've heard no air leakage out here. And you go back to your gauge and reference your starting pressure. So remember that number. My needle is still at the same starting pressure of 118 psi. Tell them now how much you've lost in numerics. I've lost 0 psi. This is a good test. And release your foot. Next brake test is my low air warning. Both indicators, audio and visual, must come on between 55 and 75 psi. And no lower than 55 psi. Make sure your key is in the on position, and then fan your brakes down slowly and watch and listen for any indicator, audio or visual. Once an indicator comes on, stop pumping that brake. I have a low air warning light at 75. It just went out. I'll continue. That's the words you got to say. Now 1 pump at a time. I have a low air warning at 74 psi, but no audio. I'll continue. I have audio and visual at 72 psi. This is between. It just went out. I'll continue. I have audio and visual at 67 psi. This is between 55 and 75, and no lower than 55, making this a good test. And then you can shut your key off. Next brake test is my emergency brake test. My parking brake valve and trailer air supply valve must both pop out between 20 and 45 psi. Fan the brakes down the same way you just did, but I want you to keep your eyes on these guys. Sometimes in this particular vehicle, the trailer air supply pops out by itself. In this case, only the trailer air supply valve popped out at 44 psi. I'll continue until the parking brake valve pops out. My parking brake valve popped out at 27 psi. They're both between 20 and 45, making this a good test. Safe start. Let your needles rise, fall, rise, and then fire it up. Neutral again before you let your clutch out. Every time you do a safe start, you gotta push in your brake valves. Now they'll push in, but they just popped out. So you have to wait for enough air pressure where they'll stay in. For the sake of time, you can throttle up, either here or on your test, it's okay. You can just sit there and chill, you don't have to throttle up. But your brake valves must stay in. The two parts to a fully charged system are both brake valves in and needles stop rising. Sometimes right here they might say, why are you pushing those in? To get a fully charged system. Do you have one? Not until my valves are in and my needles have stopped rising. Two parts, valves in, needles stop rising. If you have to redo a brake test, safe start, valves in, needles stop rising. This is where most people fail. They forget to push their brake valves in. And now that my brake valves are in and I'm waiting for my needles to stop rising, the next brake test is going to be a tug test on the trailer. If that fails, they could potentially pancake their face on the windshield. So you look at your examiner. If they don't have their seatbelt on, you say, please put your seatbelt on, and they will. When you put yours on, they will not put theirs on because they have to lean over in your space and look at your eyeballs and the gauge. But now we're done with the gauges, and now we're getting ready to potentially move the truck. So you must look at them, make sure they have their seatbelt on, and they will. If they don't have it on, please put your belt on, click, they'll put it on. My valves are in. I'm waiting for my needles to stop rising. Now that I have a fully charged system, oh, how do you know? Because my valves are in and my needles have stopped rising. Now that I have a fully charged system, I'm going to do a tug test on my trailer brakes. I'm going to gently tug to see if they hold. So I'm going to pull my trailer air supply valve out. That sets the brakes on the trailer. If my parking brake valve is out, shove it in and keep your right foot flat on the floor away from that service brake. They have claimed that we were pressing on the service brake when we were doing a tug test. And then you're going to do a gentle tug test. That means you let your clutch out slowly until you feel it. If you don't feel it, they didn't feel it. If you shove it in, you didn't feel anything, let it out farther until it's got a tug. You're checking that they hold. Shove it in, I felt it. That means they felt it. Get it up in neutral and let your clutch out. That finishes your performance. And then you say, my trailer brakes held. This is a good test. Next brake test is my parking brake test or tractor brake test. You can interchange the word tractor with parking. I'm going to gently tug on my tractor brakes to see if they hold. So pull your parking brake valve out. That sets the brakes on the tractor. If your trailer air supply valve is out, release your trailer brakes and keep your right foot away from that service brake and gently tug to see if it holds. I barely felt it, so they barely felt it. That's good enough. Hey, my tractor brakes held is a good test. Last brake test is my service brake test. To perform this, I'm going to pull forward 3 to 5 miles an hour, only about 10 feet, and apply the service brake. You have to say that because we have 3 different brakes in here. I'm going to apply the service brake to make sure the vehicle stops straight. If it doesn't, that's an indication of a brake out of adjustment. When you do this, you're going to hold the steering wheel lightly. Don't grip it. Can't have no hands on there. Some guys put their hands behind it. It's okay. And then you're just going to pull forward about 10 feet. Shove in your clutch, apply the service brake, get it up into neutral, clutch out, and now you have to set your parking brake because we're no longer chalked. And then you say, I just did a service brake test, the vehicle stopped straight. This is a good test. Now right there you're done, but I want you to say this phrase. Now I'm just trying to think if there's anything I missed or said wrong. Sometimes they'll help you. Hey, is there anything more you want to tell me about your air compressor or your fifth wheel? Whatever they say, yes, and go through it top to bottom. Securely mounted on missing parts, not cracked or broke. Go through it. You won't know what you missed, they will. And try to collect as many points as you can. If they don't help you and you can't think, after you said, I'm just trying to think if there's anything I missed or said wrong, then you have to conclude your test, your entire test. You say, okay, this concludes my pre-trip walk-around in-cabin brake test. Or you can say, okay, I'm done. And then they'll say, okay, ready to go for a drive. And I would caution you, that could be baiting you. I would say, I'm just trying to think if there's anything I missed or said wrong. And they might say, nope, you aced it, let's go. Or they might say, nope, you failed, you didn't have enough points. Or you messed up on your brake test. If you mess up on your brake test, and you know you did, you can restart your brake tests. If you restart them, safe start, valves in, needles stop rising. You must rechalk the truck if you're doing the first 4. Air compressor governor cut out, applied, low air warning, or emergency brake test. You must rechalk your truck. If you're simply doing a trailer brake tug test, or a parking brake tug test, or a service brake tug or service brake test, you do not have to rechalk your truck. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back there, and you're up. You have to do it from completely correctly, no errors.